total newcomer that is just out of nowhere, suddenly beating guys. You have no idea what he can do. Now, you know Vanya. HeRoMaRinE knows Vanya, and HeRoMaRinE knows TVZ. So if you point all of your points on HeRoMaRinE, you can't really be blamed. In the bottom left of Oxide for game 1, he is the red Terran HeRoMaRinE. In the top right as the blue Zerg, it is Vanya. Vanya dismantled Geralt's 3-0, but that is a different matchup. A very different player. HeRoMaRinE has always been, and always will be, a scary opponent to face, because he himself can be scary. Big game. It's too large. It just scares you. But right now, he is also one of the best players in the world when it comes to playing in these online cups. I think in general, he's one of the best players in the world. But especially when he's gotten the extra surge of playing in the Open Cup in the finals. He just is... I don't know, it just adds a lot to his power for some strange reason. It's what it was happening last year, now it's happening again. It feels like with the increased prize pool, he has been reinvigorated to prove that this is the big Gabe weekly, not the Clem weekly. And guess what? Clem's not even here. Ha! Now, it makes sense that Clem's not here, as many of these European players are going to be performing tomorrow in the bigger, higher stakes DreamHack. So it makes sense if they want to hide their builds, practice on their own, not have that pressure, blah, 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 blah. But HeRoMaRinE, I feel like he always got something to prove. He wants to be the guy who's in all of these perfect attendance, all right? Like, honestly, you look at HeRoMaRinE, it'd it be surprising to learn that in school he had perfect attendance? Would it be surprising? No. No, it wouldn't. So he's gonna go for perfect attendance for the ESL Open Cups as well, even though he is also playing tomorrow. I'm not sure against who, though. I'm gonna go check. These are things I should know as I am casting tomorrow. Oh, that's the season finals. The season finals, by the way, for DreamHack, if anyone has not noticed, it is happening a month from now, or a month from next week. This weekend. Whatever. Anyways. And I just want to throw it out there that there might be a reason why there's such a big delay. And I'll keep it at that. So, third CC build from HeRoMaRinE. While I check in on who he's facing tomorrow, and what builds he might be trying to hide. Ooh, yeah, he's facing Lambo tomorrow. So, he would actually, it would, I mean, to maybe an extreme degree, it might be better for him not to show off his builds. You know, to the point where he loses. If he lost here in this best of 5, it would not be absurd to say that he did not show his best games. Or his best builds. The thing about HeRoMaRinE, though, is that he doesn't really pride himself or show himself as a guy who tries to hide builds and then, gotcha, I won because of it. He does have to have some tricky builds as a Terran player. There's a lot of variety needed in the matchup. And I think against the likes of Clem and, Raynor and Cyril, so he's saying Clem, he also does have to have a variety of builds. But I think actually when it comes to these other plebs, very quote-unquote right there, because Vanya's on a pleb, Emma's on a pleb. But against the guys who aren't, those two Zergs, I think that he actually could pride himself on actually being able to just out-macro the guy and outperform him in the matchup. So I don't think HeRoMaRine's really worried about hiding builds or even hiding styles. So we're going to see a very typical command center third, fast, but then a little less typical is going into the Banshees. I do think this is a Vanya special. That was weird. If the Terran player really wants to be greedy with a third CC, we do usually see them just kind of take all of the greediness. In for a penny, in for a pound type of thing, right? So get fast third CC, also go for only 4 Hellions, right into Stam, right into additional barracks, no 6 Hellions, no tanks, no Banshees. But if you're facing someone who is well known for how often they do roaches, on a map that is still pretty good for roaches, Banshees being included is pretty helpful. And I feel like that is why HeRoMaRiNE's doing it. Not because he actually thinks these Banshees will be doing a lot of damage, or that they're the best unit ever created, because they do actually stall out your barracks production, and more Marines is getting more better as time goes on. But yeah, it is the build HeRoMaRiNE has chosen. A lot of Hellions with the Banshees, a lot of harassment opportunities. Vanya's actually not going for roaches this game. Started up melee, going into banelings. So the Banshees, I mean, are now down to what you would expect from a lot of other games where they're included, which is still nice to defend. Nice to defend against run-bys. But probably not going to do a lot on the offensive, because their players are just too good against them. In the best case scenario would have actually been taking out this base, but it looks like he was hoping for something bigger and better, more drone kills. The Hellions do eventually make their way over to this fourth base, but Hellions killing a entire hatchery is very unlikely. If there are Hellbats, that'd actually give them a chance. But without being Hellbats, the surround from both the Lings and the Queens will be good enough to clean it up, as the two Banshees, still trying to find their damage, are finding at least some success. I was knocking the Banshees a little bit earlier, but they've actually done a decent bit. 7 drones, probably. Oh, a Queen went down as well. Make that 8, 9, 10 drones before one Banshee falls. It's actually pretty good. Much more than I expected. But the downside is, if all those Hellions are dead, there might not be enough Marines to hold against the Ling counter, so SCVs also fall. And far more SCVs than drones. 19 SCVs compared to the 10 drones. Ouch. That's why those Hellions have to be cared for just a little while longer. Like, honestly, just a little while longer. 20 seconds more gives you another round of Marine production. And then maybe you only lose 10 SCVs and you kind of equal out there. But without the additional Marines, you had to take that super seriously. You had to pull the SCVs to support the Marines. So that turned a little bit awkward. HeRoMaRiNE is going to pressure as fast as he possibly can onto that fourth base before the creep spread has really spread. There's only a couple left, so there you go. This is before combat shields, but it is with 1-1, so they're both on equal upgrades. Vanya, though, just shy of having difficult hooks. He's panicking maybe a little bit. Needs some more fodder as well for those banelings, but eventually he's going to get there. There's the baneling roly-poly. There are 2 tanks ready to defend these Marines. They get picked up. They're going to focus fire on top of the banelings as much as they possibly can. Actually, Vanya's splitting a little bit there to make sure that the Marines couldn't actually unload and that the tanks couldn't actually kill all of the banelings. They got close to it, though. These are the 2 banelings that actually split off. But HeRoMaRiNE has now taken a huge jump in supply. I think Vanya just... he did a lot of really good things, but I think maybe it's just the macro, honestly. He is starting to bank up the 700 minerals. He at least started his 2-2, and he is working up to his Hydralisk Den, but he can't get as many Lings as he would like. He could get as many Banelings as he likes. He has a lot of gas, but you do need Lings supporting those Banelings. A decent number of them as well. That's a lot of Marines running back into just a single tank, not a lot, so Marines, they're gonna die. Then they take down all the Banelings as they roll off of creep, and Vanya just seems like maybe his macro wasn't quite there. Because I actually think that he was in an okay position. HeRoMaRiNE's got another drop clearing up creep on the left as well, so Vanya's gonna have no safe place to go. If he were to lose this 4th, he wouldn't be able to replace it super easily. Honestly, as the game goes on, the next minute or so, he's gonna want a 5th base, which will be really difficult to grab. He's still got no successful or dependable anti-air. Those Hydras are not out, no Spire. At least he does move the Spore Crawler over, so that will push away the Medivac and maybe not quite kill it. Not quite. And finally, the supply has been bridged, because that was a very scary supply. 20 supply down, that's kind of typical for this matchup, but it was about 30, almost 40, and that was a little worrying. 2-2 is finish up for Vanya. The tank is not siege. It is off of creep, however, and HeRoMaRiNE's going to fan out those Marines and take as good of an exchange as possible. But Vanya does get the jump on HeRoMaRiNE. That was just him not prepared to take the fight quite yet. That's not all of HeRoMaRiNE's army. He's got plenty of Marines behind. Widowmine's gonna burrow itself. No drilling claws though, but good focus fire on the Banelings, at least initially. And then misses the rest. They are coming in single file, but the Ling numbers are now actually what's really causing problems, especially since they have the 2-2 upgrade over HeRoMaRiNE, who's got about 45 seconds left on his upgrades. Widowmine's burrow, but then do more splashback than they do damage to the Lings. And Vanya, he knows when to go for the throat. He's going to continue rattling Lings in here and try to win the game. I think he's going to be just shy of it, honestly. There's not enough Banelings, but he is going to do some economic damage. He is going to kill a lot of units, cull the Widowmine numbers, and actually, maybe win? I think once again, Vanya's macro is starting to be his downfall. 1,200 minerals in the bank. No Hydralisks. No Banelings, as he was reinforcing just over and over again with those Lings. And oh, it's because the Hydralisk then died. Oh, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. I guess, I don't know. Was it at the 4th? Was that the 5th? That doesn't make any sense. It wasn't at the 5th. I don't know when it died. Shit. Did he cancel it? He must have canceled it. Okay, alright. Well, a little bit of harassment now as HeRoMaRiNE sets up his 4th base. That was a very scary moment, but Vanya's missed macro and then I think just inevitably was going to be pushed back as well, right? Means that we do get to go into the next part of the game, which has actually already started to go really poorly for Vanya. Liberator sieged up, Widowmine shot off. Liberator on the left side as well is going to grab not just 19 drones, but also a queen. All this is actually distracting HeRoMaRiNE's main army. So the Marines were just cleaned up thanks to a couple of Banelings. So that's nice, but 22 drones have gone down. And one more, and a lot of lost mining time. And HeRoMaRiNE still has plenty of army, still has double the army supply. Vanya is adding on a lurker den finally. It's about to finish, but no Hydras turn to lurkers. Not even have a hive, right? So he's actually gonna have the best lurkers possible. And it seems like HeRoMaRiNE, as long as he keeps the pressure up, is eventually going to be able to push Vanya over. Looks like the Widowmine drops weren't quite done. 6 more drones go down. Vanya's still at a very healthy 80 workers. I'm gonna bump that up to, well, 83 since he just built 2 extractors. But HeRoMaRiNE's very safe and comfortable on his own 4 bases. He's built up quite the army, doubling the army supply and probably even gonna triple it at some point as he's coming in here with a lot of units, a decent amount of Widowmines, a couple of Liberators to complicate things, and 1 full medevac he needs to unload. I just realized that yet. But regardless, this seems like too good of a push for Vanya to take on, so he's going to respect that and pull back the drones, give up that hatchery, which he's not really actually allowed to do. He's going to lose the game from here, unless he takes one hell of a fight, which isn't really happening. Not quite. Baneling's almost connected into those Marines, but they are still alive. Liberator's still alive, and HeRoMaRiNE's moved on to a 5th base. That is his orbital lifted, but he has taken such control over the game that I actually count that as a victory. Where in some other games, you know, if it was a very tight, close game, that'd actually be a very sore point. Very scary fact of the Terran. But in this one, I think it's fine. Lurkers are at least done, and the hive's done as well, so we actually have... Oh, is that the burrow first? I think we have the burrow first to be able to react quickly to all this aggression. He is going to be split in half, and it's going to get really difficult to hold. Right now, it's still just the Marines, but eventually Marauders will be added in, could actually tank a couple of the shots. A concave on top of the lurkers. It's going to get scary. HeRoMaRiNE's almost maxed on his 5 bases with nothing to worry about. Vanya hasn't gotten a run by in for a while and can start to respond to the lurkers. He already has triple factories, so now he's just producing tanks from it. He's going to finish up his 3-3 upgrades as well, which of course Vanya is going to find it difficult to afford. Doesn't have that much gas. Drones going down and Liberator harassment once again. As HeRoMaRiNE focuses a lot on the left side. He's never actually going for that direct kill push. Not yet anyways. I think he wants a bigger tank count before he actually does a direct push. It seems like Vanya might have just barely enough to defend both sides. It's not really still a great situation for him, because he is on his original 4 bases. And that is going to mine out soon. And his technology is getting a little bit better. He's finishing up the hive upgrades for lurkers, the hydralisk upgrades. Supply is not getting much better. Looks for a bit of an attack, but actually just finds HeRoMaRiNE's army, which rips the lurkers and the hydras to shreds. And that is game. GG. There was at least 2 scary moments there for HeRoMaRiNE. I mean, HeRoMaRiNE actually should have been in real big trouble. But I think Vanya's execution, his macro, did end up holding him. Pulled back his momentum just enough for HeRoMaRiNE to win out, and then just, you know, ultimately win out overall. So that might be a continued trend here. In the bottom right is the blue Zerg. We have Vanya. In the top left of Oxide, nope, Romanicide, is HeRoMaRiNE. Last map was Oxide. There was also a map that is well known for being Terran favored. So I guess you could try and just, you know, scratch that, forget about it, and move on.
Sabbath received. Thank you for appeasing the Overmind.
Thank you, OMG Beats, for the Prime sub. But I think blaming the map would be downplaying the actual mechanics that were shown there. HeRoMaRiNE's mechanics, as far as I saw anyways, are pretty much spot on. Whereas, yeah, Vanya definitely had at least 2 moments where it was noticeable that the injects just weren't popping as much as they should. It sometimes happens, like even the best Zerg players and the best injects occasionally have a moment where they are waiting for the injects to pop, so it's not absurd for them to see them banking 500 minerals. Where it would kind of be absurd for a Terran player who has that consistent macro. But I think it was just like a straight up mistake. And then the second time around when he was banking about 1200, yeah, that was just him trying to flood in to win the game and getting dangerously close to doing so, but then not actually, I think, injecting back at home. And after, and it really sucked is that, like, you can kind of start to make up for it. He did eventually spend those minerals in the gas and was trying to get back into the groove and try and take advantage of the space he just made for himself, and that's exactly when HeRoMaRiNE came in with the Widow Mine drops and the Liberators, and that sometimes small thing, 2 Liberators and 4 Widow Mines sometimes can be cleaned up super quickly, super easily. They siege in the wrong Spore Crawler position, they run into a bunch of queens, whatever. It can be a very small thing, turn into a huge thing. Like, that's, I think, where Vanya really started to drop the ball. And then that was where it was, the snowball really came into effect. Like, HeRoMaRiNE was just doing so well, and Vanya was struggling. Yeah, Todd literally cast on Saturday. And he's going to be casting tomorrow. But he does do mostly Warcraft. Another 3rd CC build here from HeRoMaRinE. We'll see if he adds on the Banshees yet again. As far as an aggressive tactic, didn't really work out. The Hellions and Banshees were lackluster. But as far as being nice and potentially defensive if they don't die, that does still exist. And Vanya, I think, is still known for his roach play. So it's always worth considering. He has been doing a lot more link baneling. I think if HeRoMaRinE was facing Serral, he would have actually just gone into a bunch more barracks. But it is going to be into the Banshees. So I expect to see 8 Hellions again. And this time I also expect them not to be destroyed. That was the first big mistake that HeRoMaRinE made last game. The one that should have put Vanya in a very powerful position. He lost his Hellions and then was even countered. You lose the Hellions and they made only enough to do that. Ling-wise, like, maybe it's not a big deal. But he also got countered. That was a lot of Lings that Hellions were supposed to defend against. And that still didn't quite kill him. He lost 2 Queens of Banshee in the main. I assume you're bringing that up because you think maybe that's why he was missing injects. As far as I recall, and to be fair, I wasn't analyzing Vanya. But as far as I recall, he still had Queens injecting after that because he had extra Queens. So you just pull one of the Creep Tumor Queens up into the main. Because that happened with the Banshees, you're right. But then there was a pretty significant amount of time before... Well, I mean, it could be the reason. Maybe he just didn't bring a Queen up. It's still overall a mistake, though. Unless he had exactly 4 Queens for each hatchery. Which is not what Zerg players do. They have, like, 7 Queens. I think it was also that the Queens were about to go back to inject and then had to deal with a lot of harassment. That is 8 Hellions and 2 Banshees. Vanya's already got a layer done, though. This time skips over the fast upgrades. It's kind of the 2 big branches of Zerg tech trees. Is that you can go into a faster layer and then grab like a really fast spire, which is what Vanya's doing. And used to be one of the main staple builds of Zerg. Or you can go into the double upgrades pretty fast. Delay that technology. There are offshoots, tiny little branches off of the big branches. But yeah, that's kind of the 2 big choices. And in this case, it is going to be the fast spire. About as fast as you would expect anyways. No one really does 2 base anymore. So the Banshees are going to eventually figure this out? Maybe not. Nope, they don't actually get close enough into the main. They grab the Queen and skedaddle, as weak as one of them is. And the Hellions this time are going to be controlled. No surround. With 8 Hellions, yeah, Lings don't really stand that much of a chance. They need a surround. They need the Queen support. And all this action distracting the Queens, we can actually just, like, now pay attention to when he misses injects, since it was an issue last game. So, you know, a little delayed on this one, but very delayed on this one. And I guess you never got a macro hatchery. It's also something I didn't really think about. There's one thing that mutas do, macro-wise, it makes you look like you have really great macro. And, I mean, of course, a lot of players do just have great macro, but since it's 100-100, seems to deplete that bank awfully quickly. So, 8 mutas, plus 1 flyer attack started up. Vanya has got the air harassment on his side, but the attack is already happening. The mutas, I mean, they pull back and help against this. That's not really going to help a whole lot. There's a lot of Marines. So they're going to try and dip in and actually go after the SCV line, but there's already missile turrets. HeRoMaRinE did figure out that it was mutas. And with the missile turret, mutas can't find a whole lot, but it looks like Vanya's going to be able to defend back at home. His Banelings got actually a couple of connections more than I thought they would, and there's no combat shield, so these Marines are going to be cleaned up as the mutas return home to take out the medevacs. Vanya Got a pretty strong start here. Doesn't quite get that one medevac full of units, but still manages to push that away, get back to his creep spread, get back to his injects, which he does need to get into. And there's that macro hatchery. HeRoMaRiNE's 4th is already on the way. I believe his 2nd factory finished up, and he should be starting drilling claws soon. The muta count at now 12, with +1 flyer almost done, is getting to that point of being actually scary. Once it hits about 18, that's when it can take on Marines to a decent amount. That's when it can take on missile turrets, especially singular missile turrets. And it can also start sniping down tanks or widow mines too to help out with the main push. Exactly what they would be looking to do if they didn't just fly over the Marines instead. 3 mutas get bopped before Vanya realizes, shit, that's where the army was going. So bring that count back down to 11. Not gonna be really one-shotting a whole lot. This actual, not so bad of an attack. There's just so many units there for Vanya that even though it was off of creep, decides to pull the trigger in hopes that HeRoMaRiNE's not ready to react, which HeRoMaRiNE kind of wasn't. He does salvage the situation, however, and drops back into his other force of units that were hitting the left side, probably looking for some creep cleanup. So salvages it, but now an even supply. Vanya should be feeling quite good. I mean, the mutas dying really did suck, because his count would be at like 20 almost right now. Another Widowmine got popped off by a Widowmine. But they're still good enough numbers that they are able to harass and open up opportunities. In this case, it is going to be an opportunity for a Baneling run by. HeRoMaRiNE's back at home, though. HeRoMaRiNE is back at home with a decent amount of Marines, mostly paying attention to his own base, although not paying attention to those units. 2 Banelings left over is all you need to crash into those SCVs, but here come the reinforcements, and very few, if any, SCVs will be lost. Decent exchange, I guess, for the Marines, but for gas to minerals, probably not the best. HeRoMaRiNE even getting supply blocked with all those supply depots going down. He did manage to sneak off a drop to the very far left that is hitting the main base with absolutely nothing close to it, so that's very good news. Drones will fall, technology will be scouted, maybe a couple of queens as well, and just a pause on Vanya's harassment so that HeRoMaRiNE can get back to, I guess, his correct... What's what I'm looking for? His correct macro, his correct saturation. There we go, shit. I lost my words. Correct saturation on that 3rd and 4th base, which he is already back to. So 79 SCVs to 90 drones. As Vanya finishes up his 5th base, he will be actually reaping the benefit of all those drones. Everyone impacting here. And Vanya even at least got that +2 melee. Looks like it did miss out on the Carapace, so the upgrade favors HeRoMaRiNE, and it would inevitably with a 3-3. That always happens in TVZ. Oh god, okay, whoop. Hey, the planetary does fall. And that's a bummer there, because the army was mostly in position, so I think a lot of other Zerg players would have not engaged. And had that Baneling actually, or the Widowmine actually connected sooner, maybe it wouldn't have splashed the planetary as well. Oh well, planetary down. HeRoMaRiNE will be able to replace it with his would-be 5th base, but it's still a bummer. He's got an attack down here that's looking to kill at least one of these hatcheries. He actually clumps together, however, and there's very little splash. No Widowmines, just one coming in now. But he also has another attack over to the right side that is going to actually grab a hatchery, and there's still so many Marines there. The mutas are a little shy about engaging. HeRoMaRiNE is going to find at least 1, 2 hatcheries. Did he actually get this one? Was it canceled? I don't know. But did lose a chunk of supply. Now Vanya, as he chases down these medevacs, worth noting that his hive is finishing. It's not done yet, and he was late to the armor upgrade. So his transition into ultras is coming in a bit later, at a time where HeRoMaRiNE probably has recovered from the loss of the planetary. He's already replacing it as we speak. And as such, I think HeRoMaRiNE's going to be able to adapt to late game Zerg. It's not going to be that really swift 1-2 punch that a Zerg who's in total control of the situation can get away with. And HeRoMaRiNE's even ready again to push. Still doesn't have a lot of splash, but he does have a lot of Marauders, making the engagements a bit trickier to take for the Zerg. They can't really just like roll in and hope to God their Banelings connect, because even if they do, Marauders don't die to just a couple of Banelings. How many Banelings to kill? Marauder? Like 9, probably? Or like a stalker, I guess. That is a lot of lings, not a lot of banelings, but they are getting full wraparounds. Good magic box on top of them, Thor as well, and that is going to be a cleanup for Vanya, as he also gets to chase down the remaining medivacs. 2 end up living by the looks of things. But a very nice cleanup for Vanya, who again holds on to the space. I think HeRoMaRinE is also hoping that the lackluster creep spread will eventually bite Vanya in the butt, but so far his engagements have been good. This one might be a bit of an overextension. HeRoMaRinE still has a very good army supply and at least a couple defensive Widow Mines, but he's also looking to grab this command center. It is once again the floated main base. So it's actually one of 3 orbitals that are going to be killed here by the looks of it. It does go down. SCV's just shy of actually getting underneath it to go for the repair. Now HeRoMaRinE, if he takes a chill pill, he'll be able to max out and get another bank to build more command centers, but that went down much faster than he was hoping for. At least the Mutas take some damage, running away now at only 14. I don't know if Vanya's really going to bother to replace those. Now that's bold. A Terran player making a command center against Zeragon location. Yeah, that's something. Again, off of creep, but this time not going to find any connections, not going to find a big ol' surround. HeRoMaRinE's army is weak, but it is actually taking down all of these banelings and still barely living. The Mutas are going to fly back now in a very, very small number. I think they tangoed with a couple more Marines than they were hoping, and HeRoMaRinE is hoping to carry this momentum to victory. He's got 3-3, he's got a 40 army supply lead, but his army is hella overstimmed, and the Ultras appear. Maybe they get time. No, actually an anti-timing. Chitinous plating is not done for them. Oh my god, they just got ripped to shreds. Chitinous plating, 15 seconds away from finishing. Oh, the timing there sucked. I don't know if the Ultras would have been enough, but they would have done a much better job if they had more armor. This game seemed like it was actually going really well for Vanya. Not really, you know, overwhelmingly that he was obviously going to win. I wouldn't call this a throw, but I thought he was in a very comfortable position. All of a sudden, now in a very uncomfortable position, relying on just pure Ultra against the mass bio here means that the Ultras just get targeted down so easily, regardless of having chitinous plating. And that is it. HeRoMaRinE takes the 2-0 lead. Not easily, to be fair. The score will not reflect the games, methinks, but yep. HeRoMaRinE just too good. The third game is going to be on Beckett Industries. Wow. I wonder what Vanya vetoed. He might have vetoed Blackburn. Huh. Yeah. I don't know what the other veto was. I can't think that fast, but I would have expected this to be vetoed by the Zerg. Not just because it's short, which, I mean, it's always kind of funny when we say that shortness doesn't favor a race in general, one way or another. You know, we say that it's scary for Protoss players to play on Submarine, right? Which it is. But the point I'm trying to bring up is that it actually just depends on, like, more so styles, I would say. And I guess Vanya is a very aggressive player who would then like something that is short and really provides a chance for momentum. Because that's one thing about short maps, is that whoever gains momentum usually keeps it. And when it's lost super fast. The counter is immediate. So maybe He's just had a lot of success with this map before. But anyways, not just because of the rush distance, was what I started that sentence off with, but also because if you try to take a base down here, which you inevitably do, this is a pretty brutal choke. And this is like not that much better. Just always thought this was a difficult map for Zergs. But Vanya is willing to take on the challenge. In the top right, up 2-0, he is HeRoMaRinE. The bottom left is the blue Zerg. It is Vanya. Do some corporate training while watching this. This training's so much more bearable. The only time I ever had to do like a corporate video thing was when I was working at a grocery store. God, it was so stupid, so lame. And I got like the anti-union bullshit video as well. Ay, ay, ay. Corporations, man. But I gotta say, one nice thing about working for an established corporation is that they're more likely to pay you on time. Esports, not as much, not as much. You also get to know your schedule in advance and not be notified just a week in advance. I'm not complaining, it's fine. Much rather be doing this than bagging groceries, because I tell you what, people get real picky about their fucking groceries. I mean, I already knew that because my mom's like a little picky about it, but I think it's because people get off of work and then go to the grocery store that I just had a lot of very snappy, rude customers. Service work is the worst. And everyone should do it just to get a taste of it. HeRoMaRiNE's not going to play around with a 3cc on this build, not against this guy. Certainly the shortness of the map could lead to a more powerful 2 base or, you know, 2.5-ish base all in. Which Vanya is totally capable of. I've talked a lot about his Roach game, and I was talking mostly about the 1-1 Roach. But of course he can do like a 2-base build as well. Not going to happen here. Vanya's pulled out a gas, gets a 3rd hatch. But it makes sense for HeRoMaRiNE not to play with it. So he's gotten a 2nd gas, he goes up to a faster starport, and is probably just going to go into Henley and Banshee. I guess if I'm a Zerg player, which one would I feel like Yeah, I guess maybe Blackburn is worse. I don't know. Because the thing is that Becca Industries is like, it's literally the shortest map. From main ramp to main ramp is what we measure for rush distance. It is the shortest that we've had in a long time, actually. So there's no refuting that. But I guess for Blackburn, even though main to main is not that short, I've talked about this a lot, that U-shaped map, it feels like when you come down to naturals and thirds, which StarCraft 2 always does, that's when suddenly it feels like one of the shortest maps, is when you're talking mostly about getting past the middle, like, slow zone. And I could see that being very, I know it is very uncomfortable for any race outside of Terran or in a TVT. It's uncomfortable for both of them. And that, I guess I could see why it would be the less desirable map. But I actually don't know if he did it or not. Maybe HeRoMaRiNE did, who knows. But here we are, Beckett, Banshees are on the way. Vanya is adding on a Roach Warren, so finally getting to see the Vanya Roaches. If he's gonna attack, it's not gonna work. So this should just be defensive initially, and then into a 1-1 Roach later on. And that I'm fine with. So there's the lair. Corporations may be evil, but at least they're a well-run bureaucracy. Yeah, I guess that's the way to put it. Well, and we get Cloak. Yeah, it is finished. 1 Banshee to the left. Where's the other Banshee? Usually you do have Terrans nowadays wait for both. This one's just being a nuisance. The lair's almost done. An overseer will be made immediately, and even in sight of HeRoMaRiNE, so he knows that it's time to probably leave. Get out of there. Now 2 Banshees together could take on some Queens, but not as important. HeRoMaRinE has gotten double engineering bay, and there we go, double upgrades on the way. Already building into some tanks too. I don't think he's playing around with the map. He wants to be nice and protected. And of course, these tanks will eventually be used for a nasty little push around this location, as I was pointing out earlier, but I think also the way that HeRoMaRinE's played this map. Beckett, Vanya, makes sense. Wall coming in kind of in the nick of time, but not really. There's not enough Marines. Yeah, good micro. Okay, still loses all 4 Marines, despite his best attempt to save them. No Private Ryan was saved today, sorry. Or actually, Private Ryan is just like a stupid movie. I'm not saying it's a bad movie, it's absurd, you know? Go save this one guy, by the way, 10 people die in exchange. Like, well... What's it? Hellions dipped in and got 9 worker kills, and 2 of them even end up living. Not that they're going to contribute very much. Vanya is not going to go for a 1-1 Roach push. She is actually just going to play Roaches into Roach Hydra Lurker, I suppose. Infestation bit's already done. Hydra Ascent is on the way. Hive is starting up at sub 7 minutes. Just shy of it, so that's pretty damn fast. That's beginning Legacy of the Void timing right there. HeRoMaRinE is going to be a little hesitant to actually push. Like drops, pokes, sure, but to actually push into this guy, when you don't know if they're going for the 1-1 Roach push, is a mistake, actually, a lot of the time. So we might see Vanya just get away with everything. Because so often Roaches are for an all-out max push around, what, like 9 minutes or whatever? And then Vanya especially has got some nasty ones. So a little bit of playing off of expectations here. Vanya is instead going to just kind of run up into Hive, run up into Lurkers. And HeRoMaRinE's not going to be able to say much about it because he is totally anticipating the Roaches. Look at this, bunkers every which way. He knows that Roaches could come across the map. Just because he doesn't see 200 supply doesn't mean that the other supply isn't somewhere else. So that's when the scan comes down. Very good scan to use. I mean, it's kind of, it's obvious, but I think a lot of their Terran players would have been playing too scared and too presumptuous. So it's very good that HeRoMaRinE scans and sees the Hive. That means that he actually has an opportunity to use his army to engage Vanya's, which he does immediately. As soon as I speak about it, it happens. HeRoMaRinE's gonna siege tanks up into this choke, and oh my god, Vanya's gonna try and break through the choke. No, thank you. That's not happening, my dude. He does grab 1 tank, but at the cost of so much. Oh my god. Maybe even at the cost of the game. I mean, this was going to be a brutal position. Not just this specific position, but the way that Vanya was playing was really hoping that HeRoMaRinE wouldn't catch on to him for at least another minute here. And instead, HeRoMaRinE caught on basically at the exact right time to the point where he is going to win game 3 for the 3-0. HeRoMaRinE. It's too good, man. It's too good.